which brought us together effortlessly and with least cost. And this has done away with locational disadvantages to colleges like Marian. Marian College, Kuttikanam, is situated in one of the remote villages in Kerala in Idukki district and is catering primarily to the first generation higher education students coming from the families of plantation laborers. However, we were very fortunate to have the NAC re-accreditation in the third cycle with 3.52 CGPA and was eligible to have the position under a Paramar scheme. Under Paramar scheme also, we are mentoring few colleges, and we are very, very happy to see that Don Bosco College is doing extremely well in their quality initiatives and is going ahead for and preparing themselves for getting accredited under NAC. I'm also happy to announce, under the able leadership of Dr. Binu Thomas and other people in the college, one of the colleges under Paramar scheme, under our mentoring, has already gone for NAC accreditation. The visit was supposed to take place in March, but due to COVID, it was postponed. That is all joined together with the different opportunities that COVID is giving us, rather than looking at the challenges. The intense use of ICT in research, teaching, learning, evaluation is necessitated by COVID-19 today. So such penetration will definitely bring us a lot of opportunities in the higher education field, though there are many challenges as well. As we understand, today we are going for outcome-based education and its discussions. There is always a question of the gap between theory and practice. The skilling required for industry is not actually brought out through our classroom sessions. Through OBE, which is also introduced in Marian from 2 years now, we are very, very hopeful that lot of skilling can happen through classroom sessions by reorienting our attention from completing our syllabus to making them learn and acquire necessary skills. So thank you very much, Father Jos Paleli and Father Bimal Lakra, for inviting me for this short session, and wish you the very best in the coming sessions as well. Thank you so much. Look forward to a very, very effective session. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Roy Abraham, for your very gracious words and for hand-holding our young baby college and for assuring us that we are doing very well. Thank you very much, Father.
Thank you.
Now we shall proceed with our session of the day, and the first session is by Dr. Binu Thomas. May I now request Ms. Nasia Rahman, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, Don Bosco College, Golaghat, to introduce the speaker, Nasia Rahman.
Good morning. I am sorry to say, due to lockdown strictly enforced, and suddenly internet has gone out in that area, Nasia is unable to come online. So I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Binu Thomas on her behalf. Dr. Binu Thomas is the Associate Professor of Department of Computer Applications at Marian College, Kuttikanam. He is the Joint Director of Marian Institute for Innovative Teaching and Learning and Evaluation, Mitchell, is the coordinator of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, IQAC. Under his able leadership, we have been able to organize this webinar. It was his suggestion that he can put this seminar under the Parma scheme to enable us to reach out, to meet out all the various aspects of NAC parameters. And for his foresight and plan and concern for our institution, we appreciate very much. I had the joy of attending a 3-day program at Marian College, Kuttikanam, and undergo a training in outcome-based education in the last year. And I know I have also attended very other similar programs, and I'm very happy that I consent to give this session today. Thank you so much, dear Dr. Binu Thomas, and I welcome you wholeheartedly for this session. Thank you very much. Take your time now, sir.
Dr. Binu Thomas, you have been introduced to all of us. Now we are all ears to listen to you. Dr. Binu Thomas, kindly take over the session. Thank you.
So very good morning to all participants. Father Jos Paleli, Principal of Golaghat Don Bosco College, Father Vimal Lakra, the Vice Principal and PRO of Don Bosco College, and participants from all around India and abroad, nearby countries. So we are very lucky that we could organize such a program, and this turned out to be a very successful program because we can see the enthusiasm of the participants, and we have representation from not only from India, from all nearby countries also. So we are very lucky and we are very proud to organize this program. And today I will be discussing about outcome-based education, and this is going to be the new way of approach for education, especially with this rapid changes happening in the education sector. With this COVID-19 pandemic, we are forced to adapt to changes in education technologies, and also we also have to look into this education with a outcome-based approach, and we must be thinking about what our students will be able to do when we offer something to our students. So whenever we do something, we have to learn. We must be having the nature of approaching our activities with a purpose. So that is the fundamental concept behind the outcome-based education. Whatever we do, whatever activities we organize, we have to plan it with a purpose, and we must be able to say what our students will be able to do after attending this. So I'll go to my presentation, and for another 1 hour, I'll be talking on outcome-based education. So as our principal has rightly introduced, I am from this college, Marian College, Kuttikanam, and we are also situated in a remote hill station, and we are trying to convert many of our disadvantages, locational disadvantages and other situations which may be disadvantage to us, and we are trying to convert it into our opportunities and possibilities through various activities. And luckily we could score 3.52 in our NAC accreditation. That was one of the highest scores in Kerala at that time, and we are also in the autonomous status, and our college is named after Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, and this college is owned by the Catholic Diocese of Kanjirapalli, and I serve as the IQAC coordinator of this college. And what is the relevance of thinking about a paradigm shift in teaching learning process, changes in education, changes in approach? If we consider a class, if we consider the way the teachers are teaching over these years, not only 10, 20 years, maybe 100 years. So I have an illustration of a classroom which is supposed to be a classroom in BC, 2000 years back. You can see from the screen, the lecturer is sitting in the front position, and the students are the front bench students are watching or observing or participating in class discussions very keenly. But when we move towards the back side, the middle benches and last row, they are doing their own business, some are sleeping. And if you take a present day classroom also, we don't see much changes. And but the radical changes happening in and around us. If we take the entertainment sector, whether it is home entertainment or community entertainment, the changes which we are experiencing, it is tremendous. And in communication, if you take the changes, if you compare the changes happened in over the 100 years, if you compare a telephone system which we had 100 years back and the ultra modern smartphones we have now with us, if we compare, we cannot compare these technologies and the changes and opportunities which have brought into our life with changes and all this. And in automobile industry, we are experiencing the rapid changes happening. But when it comes to education, if you take 1000 years back, the way of teaching, or 100 years back, in the slide, I have a photo taken from a classroom 100 years back. And if we take a classroom, if it would not have been COVID-19, if we take a classroom session now also, there won't be any change. But our students are changing. We are catering to a special category of students who are born into technology, and we call them as Millennium Generation students, or Generation Z. Now they are called Generation Z students, and they are born into technology. They prefer to use technology in their teaching learning process. They are visual learners. They would like to see, watch things, and they would like to learn. And they are information hungry people. Even if we teach them, they will be searching for information over the net. So we are catering to a special category of students. And now we are moving towards digital education anyway. Willingly or unwillingly, the situation demands us to move from a kind of traditional education to an ICT-enabled teaching learning process. So when we are in this transition, we must be able to define what will be the outcome of what we teach, what we do, what we offer. So the outcome-based education, once we are into this framework, this will help the teachers and the stakeholders to clearly define for what we are striving and what will be the final outcome. And we must be able to cope up with the rapid changes happening in the education scenario, because it has happened before in Western universities and in all foreign universities. There were rapid changes happening, radical changes happening in teaching learning process over the past years. And in India, we were comfortable with what we were doing, but now all on a sudden we are forced to change. And I would like to just remind you about something. This is a trolley bag. And what is the relevance of a trolley bag in an outcome-based education session? Because if you read this slide, what is presented in the slide, this trolley bag, even though it was the beginning of a change, and it brought in a lot of innovation, and these changes have affected millions and millions of livelihoods in India, especially the railway porters. So if something happens, if some change is initiated, if we are not able to adjust, if we are not able to accommodate the changes, and if we are not readjusting, if we are not changing our approaches, changing our attitudes, we will also face a similar situation. And this Chetak scooter, those who know the little bit of history, this was the only scooter available in India maybe 30 years back, and now you see the situation of this. And Premier Padmini cars, it was a dream of Indians, and now where is the situation? So if we are not ready to change with the environment, we will not be able to survive. So the outcome-based education is the new methodology for teaching, and this is what is expected from a higher education institution, we have to impart outcome-based education. And when we teach, we must be able to clearly define why we teach, what our students will be able to do at the end of our programs. And if we are not accommodating this, even our existence may be questioned. So when I come to a formal definition and introduction about outcome-based education is a process that involves assessment and evaluation practices in education to reflect the attainment of expected learning. So the outcome-based education, we have assessments, evaluation patterns, we teach, but whatever we do, we are concentrating, our attention is on the attainment, what the students are attaining by our, so we may be teaching, we may be doing a lot of teaching learning activities, we may be doing assessment activities, we may be conducting examinations, but our aim is what our concentration, our area of focus will be what the students are attaining with our training programs. Then what is the problem with the current conventional way of teaching? We emphasize a lot on grades, but when it comes to the practical knowledge of students, even if the students gain maybe A++ in all the subjects, if they are not able to do something in life, if I give a practical example from my side, my daughter who scored A+ in mathematics for her 10th examination, but we are purchasing milk from a nearby milk vendor, and suppose we purchase milk 1.5 liters of milk every day, and if it is 40 rupees per liter, and suppose for 2-3 days we have half liter extra, if I ask my daughter to calculate the money to be paid to the vendor, if she fails, then what is the relevance of having an A+ in mathematics for 10? So we are concentrating more on grades, not on what the student will be able to do in real life. And the outcome-based education provides a framework for defining what the student will be able to do rather than what score he or she gets. And since we are concentrating more on grades, from students' point of view, there will be more attempts for malpractices so that their grades will be improved. But if you go to other universities, they have even open book examination, and even if they copy from the textbook, they don't mind if they are able to do something, if they are able to calculate the tax, or if they are able to solve a problem, even after referring to a textbook, it is not an issue. So because we are emphasizing more on what the student remembers, what he is learning by heart, and what he reproduces on the paper, there are more chances of malpractices. And this is the third point is a common complaint raised by our teachers all across the country. The students are losing their enthusiasm. So because they are forced to by heart something which is designed by the teachers, and they don't have much experiment, they don't have much to try it out. So we are at the present curriculum, we are unable to generate enthusiasm in our students. But when we move to outcome-based education, we can design our curriculum so that the students will be having more engaging and interesting activities. And there is another complaint also from the teachers, non-uniform workload among the courses. So this happens because we are not defining our outcomes clearly. So the problem is if we are able to define the outcomes clearly, we can make a balance between courses. So there will be a clear indication what the students will be able to do at the end of the course. So they can we can balance the courses by comparing the outcome of courses. Then so slowly I am moving towards the terminologies of outcome-based education. So by the end of the session, I am planning to introduce you all the terminology. So since I am the coordinator of IQAC, I will be giving a special reference to the NAC accreditation. So all the terms which are mentioned in NAC accreditation manual, I am thinking of introducing all the terms, and so that you'll be having a clear idea about what are those terms, how you can achieve or how you can define those terms. So when we move to the outcome-based education, the major components of outcome-based education, we have the learning objectives. So when we think about the learning objectives, objectives are the goals set by the teacher. So the teacher can say, I will be teaching this. I'll be teaching introduction to programming. I'll be teaching various control structures of programming. I'll be teaching the data structures or data types in programming. So that way, the goals set by the teacher is called learning objectives. But when the teacher is meeting the objectives, when the teacher teaches what she was planning to teach, what the student is attaining, what the student is able to do. So what is the attainment of students by attending, or once the teacher is meeting the objectives, what will be demonstrated by students? If we can clearly define the skills and abilities the student will be demonstrating after attending a session by a teacher where he or she meets the objectives, then we have the learning outcomes. So learning objectives are the plans or objectives set by the teacher, and learning outcomes. One second. So learning outcomes are the abilities and skills we are expecting our students to demonstrate at the end of the course. Then learning indicators means how do we know that the students have attained the learning outcomes. For example, suppose we say the students will be able to demonstrate programming skills. So the student will be able to write a program using C to implement Stack. So if you set up an outcome like that, once the student is meeting the outcome, he will be writing a program for implementing Stack. So that program is an indication that student have achieved the outcome. So we have the learning indicators. Or suppose we are setting the indicator, like if we are teaching history, the student will be able to describe the major contributions of Indian great rulers. Then if they are able to prepare a chart which explains the major contributions of Indian rulers, then that chart is an indication of the learning. So these are certain, maybe the assignments, chart, videos. So these indicators indicates that the learning has happened. So we have learning objectives, goals set by the teacher, learning outcomes, what the student will be demonstrating, what the student will be attaining, and if he attains this, how he demonstrates this, what are the indications that the student has achieved that. All those indications are called learning indicators. And when we define the outcomes, it has to be, we have to pay attention that these outcomes have to be measurable. It has to be observable. So we need to include only measurable, observable outcomes into our outcome-based education framework. Then, for getting a clear idea about what is outcome-based education, so I will set the objectives of this webinar like this. So it is my expectation. As a resource person, I am planning to introduce these concepts. So introduce the OBE framework. This is my objective. So with this webinar, I am planning to introduce the OBE framework. And then teach PO, PSO, and CO concepts. So I will be introducing the program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and course outcome concepts. Then I am planning to introduce some of the ICT enabled teaching learning tools at the end of this, if time permits. So as a resource person for this webinar, this is my expectation. Then I can say what will be the outcome. So as a participant, I am expecting you to have certain outcomes. At the end of this webinar, you, before joining the seminar, you may not be having certain skills and abilities. And after attending this webinar, you may be acquiring certain skills and abilities. So if I clearly define what you will be demonstrating after attending this webinar, we have the outcomes for this webinar. But this webinar, this outcome, because this outcome-based education, since UGC is asking for this, since NBA accreditation is asking for this, many of our universities and higher education institutions have defined the outcomes. And when we define the outcomes, there is a common mistake. We will be defining the outcomes like this. So I call this as a very bad outcomes, because if you see these outcomes, these are all outcomes. You will be having, upon completion of this webinar, the participants will have knowledge about OBE, understanding about PO, PSO, and CO, familiarity with the OBE terminologies, understanding about ICT tools in education. So you will be having all this understanding, familiarities, and knowledge. But whether it is demonstrable, whether anybody can observe this. Suppose you are working as a lecturer in your institution, you are working as an assistant professor or associate professor, and your principal has asked you to join for this webinar. And after attending this webinar, if the principal is asked, suppose the principal is asking you what you have gained, then if you say, I have knowledge about OBE, I have understanding about PO, PSO, and CO, this knowledge and understanding, it is not a measurable thing. It is not observable. We cannot make it visible, your understanding and knowledge. But if I rewrite, so these, of course, we can say these are the outcomes, but these are not good outcomes. These are not measurable outcomes. And if I rewrite my outcomes like this, upon completion of this webinar, the participants will be able to describe various components of OBE in higher education. Suppose somebody is asking you, what is OBE framework? Then suppose you are describing, it has got this many components and these are the terminologies. If you are describing, this is visible, whether you are able to describe it or not. Then define PO, PSOs, and COs in arts, humanities. So if you are able to define what is a PO, program outcome, what is a PSO, and what is a course outcome, if you are able to give clear definitions, then anybody will be able to know whether you know something. So these are all measurable. N-list major components of OBE. Suppose you are able to list out what are the components of OBE, this is measurable. Then develop the, suppose your principal is asking you whether you can give a try to develop our program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and course outcomes. Suppose you are able to develop your program, so you are reaching at the top end of knowledge level, you are creating something new. So whether you are able to do this, and if you are able to use one ICT enabled teaching learning tool in your classroom, then it is much different than having an understanding of ICT enabled teaching learning tool. So what I am trying to say is, when you define your outcomes, anybody must be able to observe whether you are attaining these outcomes or not. So all the outcomes I have listed in this PowerPoint, anybody will be able to measure whether you have attained this outcome or not. So it is much different than the outcomes I have listed in my previous slide, even though these can be considered as outcomes, but it is very difficult to measure it. It is very difficult to make these outcomes visible. But if we come to this, all the outcomes can be made visible. It can be observed. It is measurable. So this is the advantage of having or writing measurable outcomes. Then the characteristics of outcome-based education curriculum. So this this outcome-based education curriculum, we start with the program educational objectives. I will be explaining this in detail. So just I am introducing the various components and characteristics we have in OBE framework. So we have program educational objectives, program outcomes, course learning outcomes, and performance indicators. So we have explained some of the terms. So we will be explaining this in detail in subsequent slides. We have program educational objectives. This is starting point of OB framework. Then we have program outcomes, then course outcomes and performance indicators. Then the major characteristics is it is outcome driven. It is not syllabus driven. It is not exam driven, but it is outcome driven. What we are expecting our students to do at the end of the course or at end of the program. And the defined outcomes we must be able to assess also. And it is centered upon, this is really a student-centric teaching learning framework, because we are defining what the student will be able to do at the end of a course, and we are circulating around this center. What is fixed at the center is what the student will be able to do, and we are circulating around. So all our activities, all our topics we teach in the classes, all our activities, all our assessments will be concentrating only on what the student will be able to do at the end of this course. So this is a student-centric teaching learning process. Then it is intentional, and learning outcomes are intentional, and it has to be assessed. So this is a vague area when we set the when we move to outcome-based education framework, because when we set our outcomes, we must not be having much idea how do we assess our outcomes. So if you are not able to assess your outcomes, the problem is not with your assessment plans, assessment method, the problem is with your outcomes. So you define the outcomes in such a way that the outcomes can be measured or it can be assessed. Then slowly I am going to explain various terms coming under outcome-based education. So we have the program educational objectives. Then program educational objectives are the expectations of an institution about our students, like what they will be performing in the society after 3 to 5 years of graduation. So it is not something to be achieved in the campus. It is not something to be achieved at the time of graduation. It is something to be achieved after 3-5 years of graduation. So when we think about program educational objectives, we will have to start from our mission and vision statements of the institution. So every institution, as far as our education institutions are concerned, we have a mission and vision. But the problem is, we think about our mission and vision only at the time of NAAC or NB accreditation. That time we clean our mission vision statement boards, and it will be manifested at the entrance or sometimes in departments or in classrooms, and we ensure that the students and teachers may have at least some awareness about the mission and vision statements, but it is not actually like that. An education institution actually exists for achieving the mission and vision statements. So that is the purpose of the existence of education institutions. We exist to achieve the mission and vision statements. So how do we achieve the mission and vision statements? We can do only, as far as education institutions are concerned, we can do only one thing: we can teach our students. So when the students are admitted, we teach them for 3 to 5 years. Then we send them to the society. They will be working in the society, and through their deeds, what they do in the society, what they perform in the society, with their performance, the education institutions have to achieve their mission and vision. So the program educational objectives are directly linked with our mission and vision, and we train our students, we send them to the society, and after 3-5 years, they start working in the society, and they will be slowly achieving the mission and vision statements or mission and vision of the institution. That is the ultimate aim of the outcome-based education framework, achieving the mission and vision of education institutions. So it is program educational objective. To be very precise, program educational objectives are the objectives set by the institution to be achieved by the graduates of the institution after 3 to 5 years of graduation from the campus, when they are away from the campus. So then the program educational objectives are directly linked with the mission. It is derived from mission and mission statement. I will be coming to that. Then program outcomes are not discipline specific. Program outcomes, even though it is called program outcomes, it is irrespective of the programs, irrespective of the discipline. So which consists of the abilities attained by the students before they graduate from an institution. So regardless of the program, whether it is BSc Computer Science, BCA, or MSc Computer Science, MCOM, regardless of the program, when a student is admitted to an institution, we are training him for 3 years. Every institution is unique. We will be inculcating certain values, culture of the institution into our students. So once he completes a graduation from an institution, at the time of graduation, what abilities and skills a student will be demonstrating at the time of. So this is immediate outcome. At the time of graduation, what skills and abilities a student will be demonstrating regardless of the program. So it is not program specific. So it is a culture inculcated in the students through various activities in the campus. Then we have program specific outcomes. So this is specific to a program. So when suppose for a BCA program, Bachelor of Computer Application program, before the students joins for the program, he may not be having the skills and abilities in the field of computers. But once he completes a 3-year program, BSc Computer Science program, some skills, abilities will be imparted on the student. He will be having some additional skills and abilities. So with this specific program, what skills and abilities the student is getting through that program, if you are able to define that, we have the program specific outcomes. So will have program specific outcomes for BCA program. We will have program specific outcomes for BA honors, BA English, BCom. Every specific program, we can have different program specific outcomes. Then this program educational objectives are to achieve the mission vision of the institution. I have explained this program. So program educational objectives are directly linked with the mission and vision of the institution. And once the students achieve this program educational objectives through their service to the society, when they work in organizations, when they work for the society, through their activities, the program education objectives are met. So that way the institution can attain the mission and vision of the institution. Program outcomes and program specific outcomes must address the program educational objectives. So it is the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, once it is achieved, finally program educational objectives have to be attained. So once we define the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, we have to keep our program educational objectives as the reference point. Then course outcomes also. So we will be assessing only the course outcomes, because in an education institution, we can, our primary responsibility is to teach our students. So we will be teaching different courses, and these courses will have course outcomes, and we will be using different assessment methods to assess these course outcomes. And when you define the course outcomes, when the course outcomes are met, then these course outcomes must be derived thinking in mind or referring to your program outcomes and program specific outcomes, so that once the course outcomes are met, the program outcomes and program specific outcomes will also be met. And when we have the course outcomes, finally in our syllabus, in our curriculum, we will have small topics. So when you include these topics, when you teach these topics, when the students learn these topics should learn to the course outcome. So if I keep it in another way, when we define a course, when we design a course, then these course outcomes must be set initially as a first step. When we define the curriculum, when we are into curriculum design process, the first thing we have to keep it in mind is we have to define the course outcomes. And then these course outcomes must be kept as a reference point. And if these course outcomes have to be met by the students, what topics or what components have to be learned by the students. So we need to include only those topics, only those components into curriculum, which will lead to the course outcomes. And the levels of outcomes, once again, for a better clarity, these are the levels of outcomes. We have program outcomes. Program outcomes are statements that describe what the students graduating from any of the education programs of an institution should be able to do. So this is not discipline specific. Program outcomes, regardless of the program, regardless of the discipline, what the student will be able to do if he is completing a program from a particular institution. And every institution is unique. A student is taking a program from Marian College, a BCA program from Marian College, and a student taking a BCA program from Don Bosco College, Golaghat. Even though the program names, even though it is a Bachelor of Computer Application program, depending upon the culture of the institution, the campus structure of the campus culture, and what kind of additional facilities we provide, the student coming out of each institution will be having some unique features, unique characteristics, unique skills. If you are able to define that uniqueness of students coming out of a campus, we are defining the program outcomes. Then we have program specific outcomes. Program specific outcomes are statements that describe what the graduates of a specific education program should be able to do. So if you are able to define what the students will be able to do at the completion of a specific program, like Bachelor of Computer Application, BSc Mathematics, or BA English, if you are able to do this, then we are defining the program specific outcomes. Then we have the course outcomes. Course outcomes are statements that describe what the student should be able to do at the end of a course, at the end of each subject. After completing each subject, each course, what the student will be able to do. If you are able to define this, you are defining the course outcomes. And I just go through the vision statement and mission statement, but vision and the definition everybody knows, so I'm not explaining what is a vision statement, just for reminding you about your vision and mission and its importance in outcome-based education framework. I'm just bringing your attention to the vision and mission statements of your institution. So we have the vision statement of your institution. So it tells why your institution exists, and we have the mission statement. This will tell what your institution is planning to do so that your vision is attained. So we have the mission statement. So it is a short-term statement, what you are planning to do in the immediate future so that your long-term vision will be achieved. Then this is the structure of outcome-based education framework. We start with the vision and mission statement of the institution. So this is why the institution exists. This is why our founders have started the institution, just for achieving the vision and mission. So over the years, the institution may exist here for hundreds and hundreds of years. Over these years, the institution is expected to attain its vision and mission. So this is the vision and mission, or this is the dreams of our founders. Then we have the vision and mission. And as far as the education institutions are concerned, we can have different programs, and we can admit students to these programs, and we can teach them, we can train them, and later they can be sent to the society. This is the primary focus. We may be having very fascinating, very attractive vision and mission statements, and this vision mission statements will say that we will change the world. Then, but even if our vision and mission statements are about for changing the world, what we can do is we can admit students to our programs and we can teach them. And with the students, we need to attain the mission and vision. So how do we attain? We train the students for 3 to 5 years. We send them to the society. They work for the society, they work for organizations, government organizations, private organizations, non-government organizations, service sector, they work. And when they work in the society, through their activities, the mission and vision statements of the institution have to be achieved. So the program educational objectives will define. So program education objectives are developed based on the vision and mission statements. And then these program educational objectives are defined, are developed based on referring to the vision and mission statement. And these are the objectives we are expecting. These are our plans and objectives of the institution that we are saying when our students are in society after 3 to 5 years of graduation, when they are totally away from the campus, they will be doing this. We are expecting them to do this. So these expectations, if we can clearly write down with reference to your vision and mission, you are defining your program educational objectives. And even though we have the vision, mission, and program educational objectives, we are teaching our students through various programs. So we have the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Program outcomes are common expectations from our students once they are graduating from the campus. Immediately at the time of graduation, what skills and abilities the students will be demonstrating in common, if we can define. It is not, NAC clearly says program outcomes are not discipline specific. If you refer the NAC manual, very clearly they have written that it is not discipline specific, because there is a notion. Lot of institutions here have defined program outcomes for science discipline, program outcomes for commerce discipline, but NAC says it is not discipline specific. So irrespective of the discipline, what skills and abilities your students will be having at the time of graduation, we have program outcomes. And if you are defining what skills and abilities the students will be having specific to a program, then we have program specific outcomes. But once the program outcomes and program specific outcomes are attained, we must be attaining the program educational objectives. Then finally, we are teaching our students different courses. All the programs have got different courses, and we are teaching our students different courses. And when we teach our students different courses, they each course will have certain course outcomes. And as far as institutions are concerned, we are teaching courses, and we can assess the attainment level only for these courses, because we teach maybe calculus, maybe introduction to programming, taxation, subjects like that, and we can assess whether the outcomes are met. And we, based on the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, we define the course outcomes, and there will be n number of course outcomes. So this is the development phase. Based on mission and vision, we define the program educational objectives. Based on the program educational objectives, we define the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. Based on the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, we define the course outcomes, and we assess the attainment of only the course outcomes. So if course outcomes are attained, if the students are attaining the course outcomes, through the attainment of course outcomes, excuse me, through the attainment of course outcomes, we attain the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. If program outcomes and program specific outcomes are attained by the students, obviously they will be attaining the program educational objectives. And if our students, our alumni, if they are attaining the program educational objectives, finally the mission and vision statement of the institution will also be attained in long run. So this is the complete OBE framework. And I would like to compare it with a satellite launch. The course outcomes, even though we teach them different courses, even though that is our primary aim, the course outcomes are just like this initial in a rocket which launches a satellite. These course outcomes are only up to this. It is only for giving an initial thrust. And once its objective is met, it is detached. Now we are not considering about the course outcomes. Then we have the program outcomes and program specific outcomes for giving the next level of thrust. And once it is attached, once it is achieved, it is also detached from the students. And then we have the program educational objectives, and the program educational objectives may push the students. If students are our payload, they may push it into the society, into the orbit where they are expected to circulate, and they will be circulating in the orbit in the society with this, all this push we have given with the course outcomes, program educational objectives, and program outcomes and program educational objectives. And once they are in the society, once they reach the society, when they are circulating in the society, our mission and vision statements will be achieved. Mission and vision will be achieved. So this is how. Then program outcomes. So we have defined it many times now in the session, so I'm not going to define it once again. And so it is not program specific, and the NAC manual which says the program outcomes are not defined, formally defined by any agency in India. But in the case of technical education, in the case of engineering education, the program outcomes are defined by NBA. But in the case of arts and science education, the programs coming under UGC, no agency have defined the program outcomes. So the higher education institutions, universities, autonomous colleges, and higher education institutions, we have the liberty and responsibility to define our program outcomes. So just for giving you an idea about how we can define the program outcomes, you please go through the Marian vision. I will wait for 1 or 2 seconds. I am not going to recite it. Just go through that, just giving an idea how the program outcomes can be defined from your mission vision. So this is our mission, and you can see the 9 program outcomes of Marian College Kuttikkanam. And if you just go through this 9 program outcomes: domain expertise, global citizenship, thrive for quality, sustainability, critical thinking, reflective response to ethical and social issues, holistic environment through education. So we say that if a student is graduating from Marian College, regardless of the discipline, regardless of the program, if he is in the Marian College campus for 3 years, we say he will be having these qualities at the time of graduation. So if I go back to Marian vision, we have derived at this program outcomes from our mission statement. So this is program outcomes. And when I go to course outcomes and program specific outcomes, we need to discuss a little bit about Bloom's taxonomy also, because when we define our outcomes, we must be able to say to which level of Bloom's taxonomy we are positioning our outcomes. So Bloom's taxonomy is a classification of the different objectives and skills that educators can set for our students, because we are teaching, but our students are we know that we have different categories of students. There will be very slow learners, there will be advanced learners, gifted learners. So in which level, even if we are teaching at what level the students have achieved their abilities and skills, if we want to define this Bloom's taxonomy framework will give you a clear idea to define the level of achievement of students or learning levels of our students. So it was introduced by an educationalist, Benjamin Bloom, in 1956. And when we go to Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels of learning from which can be achieved by students. So remember is the starting point. When we teach them, when they learn something, they can remember. And the situation in our country is, we are, by conducting our examinations, we are testing only at the most these 2 levels of our students. They may be remembering. Most of the time, our questions will be like this: state certain theorems, write certain theorems, write the definition of something. All will be directly pointing to this remember level of Bloom's taxonomy. This is the lowest level. Then we have, after remembering, they must be able to comprehend something. They must be able to remember, understand something. So if they are able to understand what they are remembering, they are at the level, second level. Then apply. If they are understanding something, if they are able to apply it in real life, then this the students are reaching at the third level of their Bloom's taxonomy. So this understanding, on the top of understanding, whether they are able to apply what they have learned in their life. Then we have analyze. The fourth level of Bloom's taxonomy is analyze. If they have many things in life, if they have learned 2-3 different options in life, whether they are able to analyze about the strength and weakness of all those things, and whether they are able to analyze it properly, and they are at the fourth level of Bloom's taxonomy. Then we have the fifth level of Bloom's taxonomy, which is evaluate. So if they have many options, if they are able to analyze on this, they will be able to evaluate this. They will be able to clearly analyze and finally evaluate, and they will be able to say this method is better than this. This is the optimum utilization. This is the best method, or this is the better choice. Like that, if they are able to suggest, then they are at the fifth level of Bloom's taxonomy. And finally, if the students are able to create something new, then they are at the topmost level of Bloom's taxonomy. And when we define our outcomes, we must be able to clearly say in which level the students have achieved in their learning level. So if I just comprehend the Bloom's taxonomy, before we can understand, before the student understands, he has to remember it. And before applying something, he has to understand this. And before evaluating, he must be able to analyze this. And finally, before creating something, he must be able to say, if suppose we want to create something new, we must be able to evaluate what is existing. So before creating, the student must be able to evaluate. So this is the logical sequence of Bloom's taxonomy. And then when we are in the process of defining our course outcomes, we must be defining our course outcomes and program specific outcomes. These outcomes should be measurable, observable, and we must be able to say whether the student is demonstrating this. Whether he is able to demonstrate this, it should be clearly observable. And when we write a learning outcome is commonly say for course outcomes and program specific outcomes and program outcomes. When we write learning outcomes, there should be an action verb. So it must be having 4 components. A good learning outcome must be having 4 components. There should be an action verb and a subject content. So we have to say in which subject area he will be performing, in physics or in programming, in database, where he will be doing this, and what he will be doing, where he will be doing, and what level of attainment in Bloom's taxonomy, or what level of attainment he will be demonstrating. And if there are some conditions, suppose you are doing some research for the data pertaining to Iqac district or Kerala state or India. So if you have some conditions to be mentioned in the outcome, you can also mention the conditions. So if you have these 4 components in an outcome, it becomes a very good outcome. We have the program specific outcomes, the definitions we have already. So it is a specific to a program, what the student will be able to do. So the components of outcomes, once again, I say what the student will be able to do, an action verb, and in which context he will be doing this, and a clear object of the verb, how he will be able to do this. So these are the program specific outcomes of BCA. So we define this program specific outcomes, and we define this in such a way that this will clearly tell you if a student is taking a program specific, if the student is taking the Bachelor of Computer Application program of Marian College, Kuttikanam, at the end of the program, the student will be demonstrating these skills and abilities. So once we define the program specific outcomes, this will remove a lot of ambiguities, because we have the BSc Computer Science program and BA BSc Computer Science program and Bachelor of Computer Application programs. So once we have these two programs, what is the difference? Nobody will be able to define. But if you clearly define the program specific outcomes of BCA and program specific outcomes of BSc Computer Science program, if the specific outcomes are clearly written, just by going through the program specific outcomes of these two programs, anybody will be able to give a distinction between these two programs. So we will be able to clearly know if a student is taking BCA program, what skills he will be having. If a student is taking a BSc Computer Science program, what skills he will be having. So this way, we must be able to clearly define the program specific outcomes of all our programs. Then course outcomes are central to our course. So just by taking a course, a subject, what skills and abilities a student will be demonstrating at the end of a subject. If you are able to define this, we are defining the course outcomes. Then what the students have gained or learned. So we must be able to say what the student will be able to remember at the end of the course, what he will be able to evaluate, whether he will be able to analyze something, whether he will be able to apply, whether he will be able to create something. We have to clearly write what the student will be able to do. If we are writing this, we are defining the course outcomes. Then some guidelines for writing the course outcomes. Use a single clear action verb. Please don't use many action verbs in while writing the course. Use a single clear action verb. Do not use vague terms like the student will have a knowledge about, will have a general idea about. All this may be the outcome, but it is very difficult to observe this, very difficult to make it visible, to demonstrate this. And it should be measurable and observable. And please don't include the course outcomes if we are not able to assess this, if we are not able to measure this. Then if we want to write good course outcomes, these are all indicatives. I'm not saying giving you as a strict hard and fast rule, but if you want to write course outcomes at different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, if you use these these verbs in your course outcomes, we will be addressing at different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. For example, describe, name, find, list, all will be addressing at the remember level of Bloom's taxonomy. Or if you say explain, compare, discuss, if you use these kind of words, we will be addressing at the student will be able to explain something, the student will be able to discuss about various components of something. Then we are addressing at the level 2 of Bloom's taxonomy. Then if we are using the verbs like complete, use, examine, illustrate, like that, we are at the level 3 of Bloom's taxonomy. Then analyze. So here also we have an explain, here also an explain, but the contexts are different. Here the explanation comes only after understanding, but the explanation has to come after understanding, applying, and analyzing if the student is able to explain something. So this context is different. Then if you want to ask, if you want to keep some of the outcomes for the high top level learners or gifted learners, we can say plan something, invent something. The student will be able to plan something, plan the construction of a building or something. So invent, compose. If the student is able to design new methodology, then, or if the student is able to write, if the student will be able to write the tax statement of a taxpayer, he is at the level 6 of Bloom's taxonomy. For a particular taxpayer, if the student is able to prepare his tax statement, he is at the level 6 of Bloom's taxonomy. So by using these kind of keywords, you can write good outcomes, and you can address at different levels of Bloom's taxonomy too. Then just for giving an example, so what the student will be able to do. So if I use if I write my outcomes like this, use an appropriate software, the student will be able to use an appropriate software to critically examine quantitative survey data to present the data to support the findings of their project. So if I keep my outcome like this, then it has got all three components of the outcomes, it says what the student will be able to do, in what context, and how well he will be able to do this. We are clearly saying. So when we define the outcomes also, we must be having these components in our outcomes. We must say what the student will be able to do, in which context, and how well they will be doing this. And please avoid the vague terms like this. The student will be having an understanding. He will be able to appreciate. He will be having a general awareness about. He will be able to cover something. So please avoid these kind of work terms. The problem is we cannot measure, observe whether the student is demonstrating this or not. Please avoid these kind of work terms. So we are about to come to an end of this. So before we wind up, I will give you an example of the outcome submitted by our physical education department. And in the left side, you can see what they have submitted. In right side, you can see the outcomes which we have refined. So it is like this. They offer a course for a common course for our students, an open course, and this open course is on general physical well-being. And the outcomes they have written like this. The original outcomes submitted by the physical education department, you can see in the left side. The refined outcomes you can see on the right side. So if I go to the first outcome, this was what they submitted. Knowledge about general concepts about physical education. So this is an outcome. After taking this course, the students must be having a general about knowledge about general concepts about physical education. But the problem is it is not visible. It is not observable. So we have rewritten it like this. The student will have the ability to describe about the need of a formal physical education and maintaining physical fitness. So if we keep the outcome like this, it is measurable whether the student is able to describe or not. So it is much different than having a knowledge about something. We cannot assess whether he has the knowledge or not. But if the student is describing, if we are asking him, why do we have to take this course? If he is describing the importance of formal physical education, then anybody will be able to observe whether he has got achieved this outcome or not. Then knowledge regarding health and effect of exercise. He must be having the knowledge and regarding health. But if we have rewritten it like this, suggest a set of exercise to maintain good physical health in daily life. So if somebody asks what I should do to have a good physical fitness in my daily physical health in my daily life, if the student is able to suggest a list of small exercise everybody can practice in their life, if they can suggest this, it is really observable. And if he can suggest this, he has achieved the outcome of the course. So it is much different and much better than this outcome. Then understand the importance of nutrition and balanced diet. And we have refined like this, ability to enlist the food items to be included in a daily balanced diet. So if he is able to give a list of food items to be included in a balanced diet, this is something very observable. If he can do this, he has achieved the outcome. But understanding about the importance of balanced diet, whether he may be having the understanding, but how do we know that he has the understanding? But if he is doing this, it is well evident that he has achieved this. Then scientific knowledge of first aid in daily life. He may be having all the scientific knowledge, but suppose his fellow being is critically ill, and if he is not able to do any first aid practices, then there is no meaning in having this outcome. But suppose his fellow being is critically ill and he is able to administer, he is able to give the first aid for that in a critical moment, he is demonstrating that he has attained the outcome. So then understanding about various hypokinetic diseases and its management. Of course, he must be having the understanding, but we have refined it like this. The ability to suggest a lifestyle based on yoga and physical activities to prevent hypokinetic diseases. So if he is able to suggest certain small exercises, small yoga steps in life, so that the diseases which may be occurring in our life due to lack of exercises can be prevented. If he is able to do this, anybody can say that he has achieved the outcome. So that way we need to refine this. So finally, I'm coming to learning indicators. suppose you want to, after this, suppose you as a participant is conducting a seminar on OB in your institution, it is an indication that you have learned something from this seminar. So that seminar conducted by you will be an indication of the learning. So suppose after this, if you are giving a try to define your PO, PSOs and COs for your organization, that document, paper where you are defining this, these that papers are indication that the paper where you are writing this, these are indication that you have learned. Then the physical education, while coming to the physical education course, the list of food items prepared by the student is an indication that he has learned. So if he is preparing a list on the paper, that paper is an indication of the learning. Then if he is doing first aid, then that administering the first aid is an indication that he has learned. Then if he is preparing a list of exercise to be done by students, that list of exercise is an indication that he has learned. So these are the learning indicators. So if we are following the OB curriculum, our teaching plans must be having this many fields. We will be starting with our course outcomes because we give more importance for our course outcomes. So we must be starting with our course outcomes. Then the topics to be included in the curriculum so that the course outcomes will be met. Then the delivery method. So we need not teach all the time. We can give some other resources. We can share resources, your own resources or some other web resources you can share, especially in the online teaching mode. In which way we are going to teach, we need to decide. Then teaching learning activities. So rather than teaching all the time, we can give them very interesting teaching learning activities. You can ask them to, suppose you are teaching banking, you can ask them to go to a bank, start a bank account, do various banking operations, give a check. Like this, you can ask them to do everything so that by doing this, the learning happens. Or you can ask them to prepare the tax statement of a taxpayer, or you can ask them to start the share trading with a small seed money. And if they are able to create a profit, if they are able to make a profit, there is no other assessment is required. It is an indication that they have learned. Then what are the assessment methods? Sometimes the teaching learning activities itself may be the assessment method, or if you are conducting some examination or assignments or some other activity, you can have the assessment methods. Then we have the learning indicators. So these learning indicators, just like what indicates the learning. So it may be a chart or sometimes the video presented by the students. So what are the learning indicators we have to define? Then so I'm coming to an end. So we are from Marian College, and we offer some of the training programs on online mode. So if you are more interested in outcome-based education, we have an exclusive course on outcome-based education. So in this presentation, we have not touched the assessment of outcomes. So if you want to learn how the assessment are done and how the course outcomes can be defined, we have an online course which will be completely dealing with defining outcomes, assessments, and how you can implement outcome-based education in your campus. We also have courses on video content creation, Moodle site creation, and you can go to our website, mariancollege.org, events.php, or just by clicking at the copying this link also, you can register for the courses. So thank you, and we will come to a discussion mode now.
Dr. Binu Thomas, you
Yes,
have
Father.
been very systematic, logical, and precise in your presentation. You have caused us a great problem, Dr. Binu Thomas. There is
Yes,
a flood. There is a flood in our chat box with a request that your presentation be shared to all the participants.
Okay.
I hope you will do that gracious act of kindness to all of us. We are getting a lot of requests that your presentation be shared with all the honored participants.
Okay, Father.
We know to be able to present within 1 hour such a huge topic is a big challenge, but you have done a wonderful job. And we have got just around 8 minutes before we end up this session. And we have got a number of questions which have come up from the participants. I will begin by asking the most interesting one and practical one. It is coming from Mamta Dharma. The question is, how to run practical classes during COVID-19 and how such practical related papers can be assessed. I think we are in the situation, practical classes.
Practical classes. So we have 8 minutes now.
Yes, doctor.
I never expected that this question. I think there is a Government of India MHRD website, virtuallab.in. Virtuallab.in. So this virtuallab.in is a joint development by IITs and Amrita institutions all across the country. So if you go to virtual labs, there they have very good animated virtual environment where we can have physics practicals, chemistry practicals. So all those experiments can be done there. So this is only a beginning stage, but possibilities are there.
Thank you, doctor, for clarifying that doubt. Next question is, what are the areas of challenges in enforcing CBCS pattern of examination? CBCS pattern of examination. What are the areas of challenges in it?
CBCSS.
Yes.
Choice-based credit.
Yes.
So the challenges of having a choice-based examination. One second. So I just verified this. So this is vlab.co.in. Okay. So the previous question I just verified. The previous question, those who asked the previous question, it is vlab.co.in. We can see a lot of practical sessions there. Then choice-based examination, the challenges is the accreditation agencies, NAC and other accreditation agencies, they give a lot of emphasis on choice-based credit system. But as far as our institutions are concerned, we have to admit that we are running with limited resources, limited teachers. So if we are providing a completely choice-based credit system, and if you are giving the liberty and freedom to students for selecting the courses which they prefer, and wide variety of courses, conducting examinations, arranging classroom sessions for the students, all will be very difficult for us. So we must be able to maintain a balance within the discipline. I would say, if you are teaching computer science, since I am from computer science, within the discipline, if you are able to give them choices like, so now in final years and all, we have many options so that the students can branch out, like cloud is there, machine learning is there, artificial intelligence is there. So if they are providing us if we can provide them that much facility so that they will be having choices, then it may be easy for us to implement. But suppose as the accreditation agencies are visualizing a computer science students, if they want to take a course in humanities or in social science or in arts, and offering them whatever they want to prefer, implementing that will be very difficult. So subject to the constraints, we must be able to optimize what we can offer. So we must be able to give choices for the students, but subject to our constraint, that will be there. So within the constraint, we have to give them choices.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. I see another Thomas in our panel, and that is Father VM Thomas. Father VM, thank you very much for joining our panel. Father VM, welcome. Fabiem is a very, very well-known educationist, national and international level, and he has been very gracious to Don Bosco College, Golaghat, and he is a great benefactor of us. Father, thank you very much. Father, you have been listening to this session on outcome-based learning, and through your experience, you must be having a lot to share with us. Could you share with us some of your opinions and your insights into this, Father?
Thank you, Dr. Vimal, for giving me this opportunity. I would say there is very little time, so let me make some general comments for now. Birds of the same feather flock together. I see both in the garden of the College of Golaghat, Don Bosco, and Kutikara Median College, we see the lush tea gardens. I had the opportunity to visit Kutikara Median College 3 times. I'm not so sure whether I met Dr. Binu or not. I had the opportunity also to address the faculty, and I'm amazed at what you have done at Kutikara.
Thank you, Father.
You dream it, you have it. That's what Walt Disney said. And when I saw those towering buildings, and when I come to know that you are teaching first generation college graduates, it's amazing that you are relating also with a college at Golaghat, which is also doing something very similar. Both of you, therefore, as I said, birds of a feather flock together. I hope you share your learnings, your knowledge and expertise, and build up a college. And that is my fervent wish. I don't think I have much to add to Dr. Binu Thomas' presentation because it was so clear, brilliant presentation. I congratulate you for this very beautiful presentation. Someone asked Michelangelo, how do you bring out something so beautiful from a stone?
Pardon?
Michelangelo said, everything is in it. I just cut away some extra stone. And that's exactly what Dr. Binu has done today. He has cut away those extra stone and made this very beautiful by saying education should be outcome-based learning and education. I had a struggle when I used to be in school, when teachers would come to me and say, Father, I have covered the syllabus. In fact, I had a teacher who came to me 3 times during the year and said, Father, I covered the syllabus, 2nd time. I was pretty upset because I knew he was not the best of teachers in the school. I then told him, don't cover the syllabus, uncover the syllabus.
Yes, Father.
I think you are exactly saying this, uncover the syllabus. Students learn and they begin to understand. And you have gone much further using Bloom's taxonomy, saying the capability to apply, analyze, and more especially to not only to evaluate, but more especially to create. I think the best that is happening in today's COVID type period is it is all becoming learner-centered, student-centered learning. No more the teacher-centered learning, but student-centered, and students are asked to create knowledge, understand, and apply. And I wish that this continues. There is, I would say, accelerated learning is taking place. I never imagined that Kutikara College will be connected to Don Bosco College, Golaghat, 3,500 kilometers away. But we are together. The world is literally flat. And that's what Thomas Friedman said. If you don't want to thank COVID at least for bringing us all together and having Dr. Binu to address so many professors across Northeast India and across India on outcome-based education, which has been so brilliant. I think I'm running out of time. Dr. Bimal, I think I don't want to go further, but maybe, I don't know, if I get opportunity, I'll speak again because you have got this 5 minutes of coffee break you have given to all. So I suppose they should enjoy. But thanks to, once again, and congratulations to Father Paleli and Father Bimal, the team, Dr. Sheila, and the Kutikara Median College for bringing together such a beautiful webinar on outcome-based education, on research, ethics, and whatever those great topics. Thank you so much. God bless you. You again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Father VM, you have been always been our Messiah, linking bridge between South and Northeast. Father VM, we are very grateful to you from Don Bosco College, Golaghat, for bringing a lot of resources to our Don Bosco College. And Kutikanam is one of those, and we do acknowledge your service. Dr. Binu Thomas, it has been a brilliant presentation from your side, as all the participants have been telling us. And we thank you very, very much for what you are doing and what you will do for Don Bosco College, Golaghat. Thank you, Dr. Binu Thomas. With this, we conclude this session. And before we go for the break, I have few announcements for the honored participants. The fruit of your participating in this webinar is definitely your e-certificate, but you will get it at a cost. And that cost is, kindly make sure that you give 4 feedback forms. These 4 feedback forms are the 2 forms for yesterday's 2 sessions that we had. The third is the feedback form for Dr. Binu Thomas session just now. And the 4th form will be for the next session, that is SLM and Developing Digital Classroom. Kindly give feedback for all these 4 sessions. Finally, you will be given the 5th feedback form on the entire webinar that we are all participating in. Unless these 5 feedback forms are received in the college, you will not be getting your e-certificate. Kindly take note of that and please comply with this request of ours. Now we shall be breaking for a short break and we shall start the next session exactly at 11:35. Now it is 11:30. At 11:35, we shall begin the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will sit.
Rina, put off your mic. Rina, put off your mic. Rina, you put off your video. Put off your video. Rina, put off. Rina, you put off your video and do work. Rina, put off your video. Good morning once more and welcome back for our next session, the last and final session, and it is on developing digital classroom. It will be presented by Dr. Anil Borah. May I now request Sister Reena George, Assistant Professor of Don Bosco College, Golaghat in the Department of English, to present the speaker. Sister Reena George. Sister Reena, you are not heard.
Yes. Good morning to all. Dr. Anil C.H. Borah is presently working as Regional Director at Iqac Regional Center, Golaghat, before which he served at Northeast Center for Research and Development. A postgraduate and doctorate in physics, Dr. Borah served as a faculty member of physics in North Lakhimpur College, Assam University, and NCERT prior to joining the Iqac. He was an associate of Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, Pune. His field of interest and research includes plasma physics, astrophysics, energy and environment, science and mathematics education. His research papers have been published in Journal of Plasma Physics, International Journal of Applied Mathematics, etc., besides conference proceedings and edited volume. He has edited volumes and also was a member of book writing team NCERT. He is experienced in guiding research scholars in physics and in higher education. He has been acting as resource persons in various teacher training programs, UGC Academic Staff College, National Council of Educational Research and Training, Center for Cultural Research and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, State Council of Educational Research and Training, Institute of Competency Development of Teachers, UNO, etc. Besides collaborations with many colleges and universities. He has been awarded with gold medal by Iqac for best services in the year 2016-17. He was national scholarship holder during his entire educational period. He started his research as a JRF in 1997. The same year, he joined as lecturer in North Lakhimpur College. He has a first-class academic career and a first graduate with distinction and recorded marks in physics from Dbcgolaghat University in 1993. With these few words, I welcome the sir for the session.
Thank you, Sister Reena George, for introducing the speaker to us. Dr. Anil Borah, thank you very much for addressing all of us. Kindly take over the mic. Dr. Anil Borah.
Thank you very much, sir. Can you hear me all?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So can I start?
Yes, sir, kindly go ahead.
Okay. I hope my presentation is visible to all.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Okay. So I sincerely thank the Don Bosco College, Golaghat, for giving me this opportunity to interact with participants from different parts of the country. The topic for discussion today is self-learning material and developing digital classroom. As we all know that the COVID-19 situation has given us some opportunities, some challenges that we have to overcome. Colleges and universities, schools, all are going now online. Classes are going online. We have been suddenly we had to change to a different mode of education, which I believe and which I can name as a kind of blended mode with face-to-face as well as distance mode combination. So it's a new experience for all of us, learners, as well as teachers, as well as the management people. this is a very new situation. So as we have been working in distance education mode, we believe that the online mode that we are now using has something to do with self-learning material, because we are not interacting with the learners in face-to-face mode as we used to do in a classroom teaching. So we are using digital classroom. We are giving input to the learners, content to the learners, so that they can interact at the time of the class going on, or at the time later on after the class. So the material that we give will act as a self-learning material. So that is why I thought the topic should be self-learning material and developing digital classroom. So let me begin with what is this self-learning material. Self-learning material, the very word self-learning means the learner can learn on his own. So it is not like the textbook where the help of teacher is necessary at every point of time. But self-learning materials are self-explanatory, self-contained, self-directed, self-motivating, self-evaluating, self-learning. These are some of the characteristics of self-learning material. So when we go in an online class, online mode of class, at least these characteristics should be there, because once we go in an online class, we have to give them the materials. It may be in a Google class where your materials are always there. If you are not deleting them, it will be in the platform, online platform. So learner can revisit it and re-look into it. And if they have problem, they can again go through the whole material. So the material should be self-explanatory. And definitely there is a curriculum given by the university grant commission, or by the college, or by the school. So this whole syllabus, if we go unit by unit, that has to be contained in the self-learning material. It should be self-contained, self-directed, self-motivating. Now, we have been, habitual to the face-to-face mode of education. So now online education or self-learning process has to be motivated. Learners have to be motivated. The material itself has to be prepared in such a way that learners are motivated towards learning. Then self-evaluating. We do not know the process of now evaluation exactly. If COVID continues, how we will be evaluating the learners will be a big question. But at least whether they are learning or not, that evaluation part should be contained in the material itself. Then the most important thing is self-learning. I was hearing to Dr. Binu, who was talking about outcome-based learning system, and he was talking about, and Professor Thomas, Father Thomas was also talking about the learning, how to create knowledge, creating knowledge, learning to learn and learning to create. I think these are two major points that our education system should include. Then how the content should be arranged in a self-learning mode or on online mode. This system is new to all, new to the maximum of the learners, new to many of our teachers. So we should go in a small step. The first condition is it should be in small steps. Then in logical arrangement, we cannot, there are disciplines where one has to go step by step, and the curriculum has to be arranged logically, ordering the content, personalized style. That is, I think, most important thing, personalized style. Since we teach in a face-to-face mode, we can call them by name, we recognize them, our learners, and we talk directly to them. But in an online system or in a self-learning material mode, we do not get that facility of interaction in face-to-face mode. So the materials that we produce has to be personalized in different ways. There are many ways how to make it personalized. It seems it should be something like, you know, somebody is sitting in front of the learner and talking to him or teaching to him or discussing with him or her. The language is one of the most difficult things. There are 2 points. Basically, one, whether we are using the language that the learner understands, particularly in a state like, say, Assam. Even if students are opting for, say, English medium in different colleges, but in face-to-face classroom, teachers are using also vernacular language. So because the learners are more comfortable in that particular zone. But in online mode, we are only talking in English or in some cases in Hindi. Probably we're not talking in their own language, or even if you're talking in English or in other language, what kind of vocabulary that we are using. Those things are very important. Illustration have to be given, assessment to be there to evaluate them. In self-learning material, the organization of content has a particular sequence, has to start even in other textbook mode also. It has to be from known to unknown, simple to complex, concrete to abstract, and particular to general. These are known to many of us who are participating in this webinar. Coming back to the language, whatever language we use, the first thing, it should be simple and clear sentences. You can see a blackboard here. Even if it is a face-to-face mode of learning, many a time we use the blackboard and we write here and there and make it a kind of, a mess. Everything is there in the blackboard, but the learner is confused which is to be, read and which is not to be. Simple vocabulary, one idea in one paragraph, interactive and personalized, and there should be humor wherever possible. In self-learning materials, in-text self-assessment questions should be there, so that the learner can make assessment of his own learning. Exercise should be there, activities should be there, so that the learner is engaged with the content. Then definitely there should be a suggested reading in the material that we provide to the learners. There are some examples which I am giving here. Now we can always give you websites of different materials. Now thousands and thousands of open learning materials are available online. So that was in brief about the self-learning material. I have some self-learning material that is produced by Iqac. If time permits, I will show you how to make it. But the main concern is about online education, digital classroom. So before we begin, let us know ourselves. As a teacher, you must know yourself, your assumptions, your learning and teaching preference, and your strength and weakness. These are the major things that we first know ourselves, then go about the digital classroom. I was hearing to Dr. Binu. He was telling about the learner-centric education system. Many a time we always focus on teacher-centered education system. We always take it granted whatever it is written in the textbook or whatever has been taught by the teacher in the classroom. But now it should be the way in a different way. It has to be learner-centered. We have to look into the needs of the learner, how they understand. It may not be a kind of lecturing for 1 hour. It may be small video. It may be small, activity. The way the learner understand the content better. So the first thing, it should be learner-centric or learner community centered. I will explain what is learner community, learning community, or technology driven. I think the two which I have written in the middle, learner-centered system and learning community, these are the main things. The teacher-centered, of course, the teacher should be comfortable, but he or she has to look into the need and comfortability of the learner than that of his or her own. Technology we are using to transact the content, to make it available to the learner, to learn the content, but it is not only the technology that we give more importance. It is our content, it is the material that it is our education, it is our knowledge system that we want to impart to our learners. So in digital classroom, when we go in a particular, say we want to offer a particular program, program means say a BA program or MA program. In a program, there will be different courses. Say in a graduate, there will be say 15 or 16 different courses. So when in the department we talk about how to go about digital classrooms, one has to be a leader. There should be a team leader. As an instructor, you may want to work with colleagues to form an instructional design team for your course. So for different courses, there will be different team leaders. It is not, you are not alone. There will be a huge team who, in the team, one has to help each other. There will be one instructor who is responsible for planning, implementing, and evaluating instructional activities. There will be a coordinator who may be involved to organize the program and serve as a liaison between the instructor and the other members of the team. Learner liaison. This position involves helping learners navigate the organization, solve problems related to organizational structure, policies, deal with other logistics that might impede the learning process. Now, practically, those students who have passed schools and entering higher education, they are now filling up online forms. There are many parents who are very comfortable to help the learner, but there are a huge number of learners who are getting problems how to fill up these online forms. What are the documents to be uploaded? How to make the payment? And what are the facilities they will be getting in the college or the university? So what are the different organizational parameters? So those things has to be explained by some of the person from the university or from the college. There should be a learner liaison from the side of the institution. Then instructional designer. The instructional designer is involved to guide the instructor in overall course design and use appropriate technologies. Now, number of technologies are available to go for digital classroom, but which technology will be, best fit for your particular course? That is very important, and somebody who is very expert in designing, instructional design, can help you the best. There should be a graphic designer. If we want to go for a whole program, say whole bachelor's degree program, go online. We do not know actually at this point of time, COVID may continue under 1 or 2 years. So we have to prepare ourselves in a different way. Let us have a graphic designer so that I can upload my program, I can upload my course in a better way. Technology personnel, the college now has to have, universities already have technology, people who are expert in technology. Resource person, of course, the teachers will be there, or they can take help of other persons from different colleges and universities. Now, I think that is one of the best opportunities that we are getting because of COVID. And from all over the world now, people are interacting with each other. Even in colleges and universities, people can take classes from, say, other countries also. So that is a kind of opportunity that we are getting. Administrative support is one of the issue for digital classroom that has to be provided by the institution. Now, what are the skills that we need? We have to be very open now. it's a new platform. It is relatively new for people in, in our country, particularly in a state like Assam or Northeast. So let us be open. We are not supposed to know everything. Learn new skills for teaching online. What are the new skills? The first is communicate with team members. Let us make a, in one department or in the college or in the university or school, let's have this communication very open. Preparing and following timelines. Working with design personnel to develop course format and strategies. Scheduling guest expert. Obtaining copyright approval. I think many a time we forget that. We do not take the copyright approval. Open resources are available. Different open courses are available in different platforms. Like, MIT is having almost more than 4,000 open courses. NPTEL has number of open, videos, but we have to take approval of those authorities before we upload it in our own website or own digital platform or own digital classroom. Developing contingency plans. We're not sure about whether, whatever technology we use will be working, for all the time. So we have to have a contingency plan. Taking care of program logistics. Preparing course resource ahead of time. Providing feedback to learners. I'll be explaining one by one. The first thing, to whom we are talking. If we are, launching digital classes for undergraduate program, say bachelor's degree program or master's degree program, who will be our learners? We work for, say, open and distance education. Our learners are of different ages. But in a typical college, conventional college, the learners of a definite age group, it's important to understand the needs, backgrounds, characteristics, and expectation of target learners. We have to understand them because in face-to-face mode, we meet them, we know them, we can understand them physically, we can read them. But in digital classroom, that is not there. So we have to be very careful to know our audience, to whom we are talking, what is their need, what is their characteristics, whether they are comfortable at their home, whether they are comfortable with their technology or not. These things have to be taken care of when we go in digital mode. We have to understand the digital environment, online environment, multiple components, technology, resources. These have become essential when we are designing an online teaching environment. Learn about the technology. As I have said earlier, almost all we are new to different technologies, and every day technology is changing. When you connect your laptop to the internet, it is asking for updating your existing apps. The meaning is that every day it is upgrading. So we have to be familiar with this softwares and hardwares, and we have to learn it. What are the resources that we have? Become familiar with the learning and technology resources available within our organization. Recognize the absence of physical presence. I think this is one of the most important things. I had a discussion with father I think 2 days back. Then I said, it came in newspaper also. In Assam, one student committed suicide because of he has to give some examination online, and I think his parents could not support him with a computer. So there are many issues. In fact, the physical absence of the teacher, of the learner, it has created a new environment. So we have to be very careful when we interact with the learners, when we go about digital classroom. In a completely online environment, immediate, informal, visual, verbal feedback is not available to us in a way we are accustomed to. To some extent, we can compensate for this by our body language or by other physical clues. We have to also understand our learners. Say, for example, we are going for an online class. in a particular course, we know the number of learners. If somebody is not present, why he is not present? What is the cause? Or if we are going to take an examination, the learner has he been prepared for the examination? Has he got all the equipment with him? Is there connectivity problem? Or is his physical environment is conducive to him? So these are some issues. Create multiple space for work, interaction, and socializing. Learning occurs in more than one setting in face-to-face classroom. For example, as part of before class relaxation and socialization. When they go to college, they interact with their friends, so they can share their mental position, the mental conditions. But in distance learning, I should say, or in digital learning, they are not getting that opportunity to interact with their friends. So their face-to-face interaction with their own friends, peer group, is absent. This is number one. So that has to be compensated by the learner, by the teacher. So how do we do that? We can incorporate similar forums into online course. Let us have, let us give time for interaction among the peer groups. Let the teacher not be in the digital classroom for 15 minutes or half an hour or 20 minutes. Let them interact. That will be a kind of relaxation for them. They can be in, there will be a space for socialization for them. But at that particular time, let the digital classroom be on, but teacher should be off from the settings so that they can interact very freely, openly. There may be, a small group into one space to respond to content questions or to work on group projects. We can also give group projects so that they can interact among themselves. Interaction among the learners is very important. The first interaction with teacher and learner. The other interaction is learner with learner. Learner with learner interaction will give opportunity to learn, as well as this is an opportunity for socialization, which is very important. Encourage individual learners to post their papers, assignment to their own content-oriented web page. We can encourage them to open their own web page and let them post their own content. They will be, more excited to do that. Include multiple types of interaction. One common form of interaction is for a teacher to put content onto a web page and for the learners to read it, review it, or be quizzed about it later on, with no actual communication taking place between teacher and learner. This is one kind of communication. Consider with interactions to include when designing an online course, think in terms of types of interaction you want to include. Now, how do they interact? There should be sufficient scope that they can interact. Now, one of the major issues that we always discuss, how many learners will be there in a particular digital classroom? There should be, first thing, there should be limited number of learners. There should not be a huge number of learners. So that interaction with the learner, with learner to learner and learner to teacher is feasible in the given set of digital platform. Consider learner to teacher interaction. Consider learner to learner interaction. These interactions have to be there in digital classroom. It may not be like, face-to-face mode, but there should be scope and space for interaction. Consider learner to expert interaction. There can be a particular course designer or particular course instructor should be there, but then he or she can invite somebody from, somebody external. To enhance the course, learners may invite a community member or guest expert to participate in or contribute to the course. I say that this should be very open. When we go digitally, we should be very open. In face-to-face mode of education, the teacher is the main person in the classroom. many a time we are not open to discuss on outside. But in digital classroom, when we go to offer the whole program and digital platform, teacher will be there. Let the students get the opportunity to hear from person outside the college. There may be somebody who is very good. Say, for example, somebody is teaching about commerce, and students, they know somebody of their own locality who is very successful in doing business. They will be more interesting to hear from that particular businessman how practically things are going on. So there should be scope for such kind of interaction. Consider learner to content. In learner to content interaction, the teacher plays an indirect role by posting content or directing the learners to work on their own. Consider learner to technology interaction. Some activities may involve learners in completing tasks using software program. Dr. Binu was telling about some practicals how to be conducted with software programs. Simulations basically. Now consider team-based learning. Team-based learning is an excellent strategy to use because online learning presents a rich opportunity for creating teams for problem solving, project development, and discussion. Now, since we are not going to the college physically or university physically, so we have got more time. We are interacting from our home, from our own place. So we are getting more time. So learners can be engaged to make small teams, or similar with teachers can be also encouraged by the authority to make groups of teachers of different colleges or different universities. Students, when they learn in a team, they learn better, particularly from the peer group. Form personal relationship online. So when we have a small group interaction in a digital classroom, we can call them by name or their surname. That makes a kind of personalized interaction, and that is very important when we go digitally, when we do not see each other more often. Sometimes definitely we can see. I told you about the communities. Develop learning communities. What is this learning communities? When our goal is same, we want to learn the same thing, and when our background is almost same, so then this group of learning people who are learning is called as learning communities. A learning community is a group of people who have to come together to form a culture of learning in which everyone is involved in a collective effort of understanding. In a classroom also, you find different learners. All backgrounds of all learners are not same. Say in a university classroom, the learners are from different group, different background. So when we make groups, we should be very careful making the groups, making the community. Learn through dialogues. Hopefully your participants will learn through dialogue, respond to ideas, and continue discussion by offering their concise, thoughtful comments. So for example, in this particular webinar, there are participants from different fields. Participants are doctorate, participants are also learners, research scholars. Somebody is teaching in a university, somebody is teaching in a college. So when we go about this kind of webinar or digital classroom, the comments of these participants are very important. How do they comment? We have to respect to their comments. Even in face-to-face mode of teaching, when learners are asking questions, we have to give respect to these questions. Many a time questions are seems to be very meaningless, but this is because of the language. They cannot put in the proper language. I can remember, somebody was asking about Newtonian mechanics, and Einstein's theory of relativity. Then he was asking me why, if Einstein equations are there, why should we learn Newtonian mechanics? So, in first sight, this question may be very, it doesn't carry any meaning. But then, if you think from the side of from the view of the learner, it has a deep meaning. So we have to respect their questions. And many a time, this question may not be from the content that we are dealing with. It may be a little outside of the content. So we have to handle that very carefully. Be prepared and flexible. Two things that I can see, openness and flexibility are the main issues when we talk about the learner-centric system of education. If we are flexible, if we are open, then only it is practically possible to have a learner-centric education system. Then only the learners will open up their mind. They will express their views. Otherwise, it will not be. The online environment requires a different amount and style of preparation for us as a teacher. In an online environment, however, we must define the space for discussion before the class begins by outlining what kinds of interaction will be used and through what format. Some of the online classes, I get the information from some school teachers as well as from some college teachers. When they are talking about their own content, learners are asking about the examination, when the exam will be there. Learners are asking about the syllabus, when the syllabus will be over. Learners are asking about their readmission, admission, all other things. So when we start the digital classroom, this will be our topic, this is our objective, this will be what we're discussing. So your questions should be within these areas. So what will be the role as a teacher in an online classroom? When teaching online, you may have more than one role, depending on the instructional strategy you are using. Consider some of the points which I am giving here. Dr. Binu was discussing about, outcome-based education. And he was talking about the objective. We have to, clearly mention the objective. What is our objective? Set attainable goals for your learners and use benchmark to the acknowledge their growth. What is our goal? What says I'm teaching, say, Newtonian mechanics and Newton's laws of motion in my first class. So I should be very clear what is my objective. That we will learn Newton's first law, second law, and third law of motion. Number two, that we will be able to explain these three laws after attending this class. Number three, we will be able to calculate velocities of objects or other things after doing this particular three laws. It should be clearly mentioned with clear language. Then only we'll be able to acknowledge their growth, whether they have learned they have achieved the goals or not. State your expectations and minimum participation requirement. Say a particular course has 20 classes. To complete a particular course, 20 interactions are required. So there will be situations, some of the participants will not be able to interact. Some of the participants will not be able to attend the classrooms. So let us first determine how many sessions have to be attended. We expect all 100% participation, but there will be cases when participants will not be able to participate in digital classroom. So what will be the minimum number of classrooms that they have to attend? What will be my expectation as a teacher? Many a time we have to look into the condition of the learners, we have to negotiate that, and we have to also compensate that. Be accessible but not dominating online. Consider carefully your modeling and mentoring process and ideologies. Be a coach and cheerleader. Learn with and from class members. When we are talking about digital classroom, we are talking about open resources. in many cases, learners are navigating through different websites. They are going through different open resources. There will be, in say a class of 50 learners, there will be few learners who will be navigating many of the websites. So they have ideas. Before going to the classroom, they have got some ideas about particular content. So we have to be careful. We have to learn together. The concept of learning to learn is important. We have to be open. Again, I'm saying we have to be open and free. We have to be very open when we go digital. Let us learn together. He may be my student, but let us learn from him also, from her also. Clarify your expectations of learner's role. In an interactive course, the learner's role become more complex and more active. I'll explain it also. Expect learners to be present online and to avoid passively observing. If number is more, say for example, this webinar, we have almost 200 plus participants. We may not interact every moment of time. So we are postponing the questions to the end of the class, end of the lecture. But when learners are small, in number of learner is small, then let them feel comfortable and let them contribute to the classroom. Let them come in, let them be unmuted, and let them interact directly in real time. Each learner can contribute his or her ideas at a comfortable pace. Some learners are more comfortable communicating verbally. They can come on microphone. Somebody is very comfortable on writing. They can come on a chat box. There are many ways. In a class face-to-face mode, the people who can communicate verbally are comfortable. But in a digital mode, people who can write their questions instead of speaking out, they will be more comfortable. So I mean, both will be comfortable in a digital platform. That in that way, digital platform is more learner-centric. Expect learners to create, share, and hold knowledge and experience. Learners who are more familiar with the technology can help the first-timers with their questions or problems. Sorry. Give your learners a brief quiz to assess their readiness for online learning. Before start of the digital classroom, give 1 or 2 minutes so that they can get ready. Let us take a kind of attendance so that they become active and they write their name. In Google Classroom, all these facilities are there. Discuss your requirements at the beginning of the class. Ask the students to create and share with you calendar or learning contracts showing when they will schedule course activities. Online courses move quickly and require self-discipline. This is one of the most typical problem with digital classroom. I have been interacting with some of the learners now. Even my daughter is now appearing, taking part in the online courses. The point is that it goes very quickly. Teachers comes, they speak, they give the content, they explain, and next class starts. So they do not get time, in fact. This is one of the problem from the learners. So they should be very, use the time very effectively. The online discussion is always there. Just click away, but response time is random. So they should be ready. We have to explain them. There should be kind of orientation or induction to the learners before we go digitally. Maybe when we go for whole course digitally, there should be 1 hour induction program to explain the learners our expectation, their readiness, how they will respond, and all that. Expect learners to be ready to learn. Learning looks different in an interactive online class. Participants may need to be more self-directed or attentive. expect learners to be troubleshoot problems. There are a number of problems when we go digitally. There may not be connectivity, there may be different issues. So they have to now learn how to troubleshoot the problem. Expect learners to contribute to the class discussion. To ensure contribution from your students, you may want to require a minimum number of posting from each learner each week. There should be a condition that every week you have to post this many number of posts from your side. We expect that learners should also interact with their peer groups. Expect learners to teach others and facilitate experience. Learners in online course have enormous opportunities to be teacher, whether in troubleshooting the software and the technology, or informing and communicating their ideas about content of the class. It is not about only the hardware and software, but also about the content. As I have said, now number of open resources are available. There will be number of learners who will be going through, who will be navigating through these online materials, and there may be students who will be very good in a good knowledge of that content. So let them be teacher also in the digital classroom. Even we can encourage the learners to organize a digital classroom on their own with their friends. That is how we can bring attention. That is how we can bring interest on online classes and in this situation. Expect learners to review readings and materials thoughtfully and effectively. You may post material directly on the web or in the web conferencing environment. Send material to learners via email, attachment, or server. Person-to-person, contact is required. We can post a particular course on a website, self-learning material on a website. We can send the same thing to his email also. Posting on website, he may or may not look into, but sending it to his email and asking him to send a feedback or a response will make a kind of more personalized way to keep him attached with the teacher or the course. Expect learners to provide timely, meaningful feedback to you and their fellow learners. Interactions are must. Somehow we have to orient the learners to interact, send the feedback. Otherwise, we are not sure about. In classroom we can see them, we can view their physical language. In online mode we cannot see that. So we have to take feedback only. Expect learners to be leaders. These are ways how to make them active. By acting as leader, the learners can take ownership of the course and better connect with what being taught. Expect learners to listen to others. By having all interaction take the shape of written words, so the learners can go back and reread comments to ascertain the intent and actual meaning behind the words. That's why I mentioned in the beginning also, expect learners to communicate by addressing each other, not just you. So in a classroom, there will be 40, 50 or 60 learners. So let them know each other, let them know their names, let them interact with them by name instead of you or instead of by numbers. Let them enter to the classroom by writing their name. Let other participants know their name and let them interact by addressing their names. That will make a kind of relationship, very personal relationship, a collegial relationship with each other. And that will encourage them to share their comments and ideas with everyone, not only with the teacher. Expect learners to be proactive. Technology does not always work, and sometimes a learner might be having trouble without you realizing it. At times, learners need to be proactive and inform you. There are hesitations. Even among us also we have hesitations. If my the internet is working, not working, I'm missing that classroom. So somehow I have to inform the teacher. That kind of confidence has to be built up in the learners. So learner has to feel comfortable when he is communicating with the teacher. That, sir, my net is now not working. Can I get a recording of your class? So that comfortable zone has to be given by the teacher. Expect learners to observe the process. Learning happens on many levels. In an interactive course, learners should avoid focusing solely on the assignment and product of the course. They should also observe the process of online discussion, how it is going on, what is going on. This is also a kind of learning. Establish a contingency plan. Technology may not work. Even the file that I have prepared may be lost. So there should be some kind of contingency plan which can fill up the blanks. So as a teacher, as a facilitator, we have to be very careful and get ready with a contingency plan. So there are some myths about the online digital classes, digital learning, myths about even self-learning materials, distance education. The first myth is that learners are unable to adapt to online environment. And now, almost all students who are even in school, they are comfortable with a smartphone. They are better. They know better than the teachers. So there may be one or two somewhere, but generally learners are better comfortable with online environment than the elder people. But there may be exceptions, so that exception has to be given preference, and that particular learner has to be inducted, that learner has to be given training by the teacher. Second myth is the instructor has to know how to do everything. I think instructors, teachers, facilitators, they will learn. Now we know how to, at least go about a Zoom meeting, how to go about a Google Classroom. I think slowly we will learn how to, edit the video programs or audio clips. This we will be learning. There are now a number of, apps available, even in the, mobile phone platform. So those apps we can use. And interestingly, there will be a group of teachers. I am not alone. There will be a number of people, and we have to exchange our ideas. We can call our technology specialists, instructional designers, and many others who can help each other. So helping each other and learning from each other is the criteria. And openness, of course, is the first one. The another myth is time requirement for teachers are lower in an online environment, which is in fact the opposite. Now it needs more time, in fact, for a teacher. Online interactive courses are open for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are time consuming and challenging. Now, you as a teacher, you have more work, in fact, during COVID time. We are preparing for our own learners, we are preparing for other learners, we are preparing for, other meetings. So as a teacher now, it is almost kind of 24 hours job. Online classrooms are not conducive to group interaction and activities. Conference software offers many opportunities for interaction in multiple group settings that you determine and negotiate with your learners. We have been doing it. People are doing it now. Online classrooms are not social as face-to-face classrooms. But I've written, but we remember a good movie easily. People are always, many of our teachers, they are saying, no, we cannot go online, or we cannot go for digital classrooms, because the point of socialization will not be there. But there are ways how to compensate that. we can give sufficient time to the learners to interact among themselves so that the process of socialization also takes place. The another myth is the number of learners in online classroom is unlimited. We cannot go unlimited number of learners in a particular digital class. The same thing is true in digital mode also. All will not be learning equally. But opportunity or advantage in digital classroom is that digital footprint will be always there. So digital copy will be always there in the platform. They can revisit it. That is advantage of digital mode, digital classroom over the face-to-face mode of classroom. Okay, constraint for interactive online teaching learning system. The first constraint is about fear of technology. Many of us we do not know the new technology that are available to us. So we have always a fear of technology. If I am going online for a particular course, I'm always thinking whether my laptop will work or not, whether my connectivity will be there or not, whether power will be there or not, or whether I will be able to upload my particular presentation or not. So those fears are always with us. That is one of the constraints. As a teacher, as a learner also the same thing, whether my phone will work or not, whether my computer will work or not, whether connectivity will be there or not, all that will be there, or whether I will be able to answer the question on the Google class or not, whether my Google answer sheet will work or not. Those things will be always there. But slowly when we use it and over a period of time, maybe 1 week or so, this fear will not be there. Constraints, under constraint is different level of technology skills. Some learners will be having very good technology skills, some will not be having that skill. But over a period of time, maybe 1 week, maybe 1 or 2 classes, 1 or 2 sessions, it will be solved. Their own friends will help each other. Constant ability to type and use the keyboard. This particular problem, it may not be, for say who is taking English as a medium of instruction, but those who are, taking other language, say in Assam, many students are, in Assamese medium or Bangla medium or Borah. Now, whether this particular keyboard is there or not, whether they can use that keyboard or not, it is not necessary that all learners will be, learning in English. Learners will be learning in Assamese, in Borah, in Tamil, in Telugu, in Hindi, whether they will be comfortable in typing in that language or not, whether those keyboards will be working or not. So this is a constraint, but people are doing it. People are writing messages in their own vernacular languages. So similarly, they can also write in Google Classroom. Constraints, under constraint is access to a computer and an internet connection. This is the most important problem all over the country. Even if 99% of our learners are having computers or internet, at least 1%, if they do not have this have computer or internet connection, we cannot exclude them. How to include them? That is a challenge before us in all over the country. And I believe government has to look into that, society has to look into that, and we have to help each other. If somebody is donating, say, 5,000 rupees or 7,000 rupees for other causes, I think we have to also look into how we can donate a mobile phone or a laptop to a learner. People are there who in the society who are doing these things. The another constraint, the comfort of physical workspace. Now there are many learners their own residence is not comfortable for physically, walking or physically attending a class from their own place. There are many learners who their, residence is not good. They're only in one room. There are 4 or 5 members are, staying. How do they now go about the digital classroom? Their sister is there, brother is there, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, all are sitting, all are in their 1 or 2 rooms. So that in one, for some people, it will be comfortable them, attending a class from their own home. For some people, it will be a discomfort to attend a class from their own home. Now, at present, hundreds of villages in Assam are underwater. What about those people? So, we have to think if we really want to go the whole program, say bachelor's degree program or master's degree program or the whole university going through the digital classroom, I think these 2 problems will be the major problems out of all. The one is how they will work from their home, how they will attend their classes from home, and who will give them the computer and the internet. I think third one is also another big problem if somebody is disabled. Another constraint is not being able to correspond in the language being used for the course that we have discussed. So these are some of the issues that what we should do and how we should do, and how exactly we go about the online course. The first thing, identify the course design. Consider course goals and objective. This is important. What are our objectives? To develop an online course or any other course, you need to clarify these goals and objectives and write them so that you can clearly communicate them to the learners and others working on the course. Why or what we are going to learn in this particular course. That has to be mentioned very clearly. Consider content. What will you include? What methods will you use to convey the content? In an interactive online course, some content and methods work better than others. Consider readings. Select reading that provide different perspective on course topic. Use World Wide Web for some of the readings. Consider resources. What are the resources that we have with us? I mentioned copyright issues. Determine the method of delivery, whether it will be interactive or non-interactive, whether it will be audio or video, whether there will be simulation or not, whether there will be diagrams or not, whether there will be combination of all these or not. Depending on all that, instructional design, depending on that, we need different softwares and hardwares. Consider interactive applications. Interactive applications are computer programs that enable 2 or more people to interact while online. Among these applications are search functions, bulletin board, and consider non-interactive applications like quiz, web posting, streaming, content page, etc. And what kind of media we are going to use? What kind of mode that we are going to use? We have to inform the learners in advance. Tell learners about the computer hardware and software which will be required. Tell learners about the level of computing proficiency that will be required. Tell learners about the level of course content and the course time expectation. Decide and communicate to what private and what public. So when we go about in a digital class, we have to also tell them what is the public communication and private communication. And there are issues in digital classroom. Learners are posting some videos or some audios which are very personal, but that has become public in the classroom. So that creates a big problem, in fact, in the classroom. Develop course details before going to the digitally the program. establish discussion guidelines. There should be strict guidelines to the learners that this is to be discussed, this is not to be discussed now. Establish guidelines for participants posting in an important aspect of online teaching. Develop flexibility for all learners as well as for teachers. Organize content into modules or units. We have to divide the whole curriculum into units, and in one unit, how many digital classrooms will be required, how many digital classes will be required, that has to be very carefully designed. And accordingly, a timeline has to be prepared. And before starting the whole program, what will be the assignments, how we will evaluate that, that has to be decided. Evaluation technique to use the assignments. How to evaluate the learners also, that has to be seen. And how this particular program, how this particular digital classroom will be effective, whether it will be effective or not, that has to be also assessed in the beginning, maybe in the first 1 or 2 courses, so that we can go on for the whole program. Before instruction, how well is the instruction likely to work? Will instruction hold learners' interest or not? During instruction, what obstacles are learners encouraging? What can be done to maintain learners' motivation? After instruction, what improvement could be made in the instruction? These are some of the process how we can evaluate. Use quizzes, use essays, then interviews, maybe performance evaluation. I think one of the major issues is using journals. It is something like a diary. There are records learners keep as they walk through an experience. At the end of each stage, learners could write out their thoughts and experience about what happened during the process. So somebody has started, going through online teaching of mathematics, say, for example, and he will be teaching, say, a particular course of mathematics, a differential equation. Now, let the learner use a kind of diary of events, what he or she is learning and what is his or her experience. It's called journal. Use reflective papers, a summary of common themes cover online journals, an analysis of participants' learning in the course, a reflection on how participants' experience as a learner affect his or her own practice. There should be kind of peer assessment, since much of the learning that occurs in the interactive online course is done collaboratively. You might want to give your learners the chance to assess each other's contribution to the course discussion and common group activities. Use learners' self-assessment. How to grade assignments, we have to also think on that. Develop to evaluate group projects, learning that occurred individually or team generated, depth of learning, how to now evaluate these things, presentation style and creativity. These are some of the kind of innovation of the teacher who is taking the digital classroom. For each teacher, there will be unique ways. Consider strategies for course improvement. We can take small assessment, pre-test or post-test, direct observation, ask learners for their reflection, peer review, or own reflection. Coming to the end, the important thing, how to promote critical thinking. It is not only the examination, it is not only the marks that the learners are expecting. As a society, as a country, we are more interested that our learners, our students should learn, understand, apply, then analyze, and then they should synthesize. They should synthesize different knowledge. They should, after synthesization, they will be able to create new knowledge. I remember Father Thomas was also talking about the creation. we are looking for a system of education so that learners are getting the facility to create new knowledge, create the knowledge system. It is not only to transferring knowledge from one generation to the other generation. It is about creating knowledge, and how that can happen. That can happen with critical thinking. And what is this critical thinking? It is about the challenging the existing knowledge system. You know, we have to give opportunity to the learners to develop this. Let me give you a small example. Say we are thinking about, we are teaching about Newton's third law. You know, since Newton's third law is almost known to everybody, be it social science, commerce, or any branch of, students or learners or teachers. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. Now, if I say kick this table with my hand, the table will equally kick me back. That is simple interpretation of Newton's third law. Now, critical point is that I'm eating food, drinking water, drinking milk, so I'm getting energy, so I can kick the table. But where from this table has got energy, the force to kick me back? We have been teaching, Newton's third law in school. We have been giving examples, but the same example with a small, kind of change, make the learner to think it critically. There are many issues. In every field, there will be a point of critical thinking. And if we put these small things, questions to the learners, they will think in a different way. And that thinking process will create new knowledge. Encourage learners to evaluate information. Encourage learners to connect information. I think critical thinking and connectivity, connect information, how to connect different information to create new knowledge. This is one, when we develop the content for the digital classroom, we have to also connect that. How they can connect different information. Or for example, now open courses are available in the internet, number of open resources. Now, which is reliable? Or how to connect these sources, how to connect those information. We call it connectivity. Let me give you an example. I think I will finish that in 1 or 2 minutes. Open distance education or open education or education without direct in front of a teacher, without a teacher, is very old in India. I think many of us, we can remember the story of Iqac in Mahabharata. Iqac went to the college of Dronacharya, where he did not get a seat. He could not enter to that college. So what he did, he made a statue of Dronacharya and he started learning archery. And it so happened, Arjun was a direct learner of Dronacharya, but it so happened Iqac could learn better than Arjun, and he became a better archer than Arjun. And finally, that Dronacharya came to know that Iqac was better than Arjun, and Dronacharya asked Guru Dakshina. So thumb was removed. The Iqac offered his thumb as a Guru Dakshina. So the point is that learning happens with their own experience. Learning of a learner is basically depends on the experience of the learner. So as Iqac learned how to use arrow, he learned on his own experience. The first arrow may not be was not correct. Maybe second was little better, third was better, and so forth. So learning happens on the basis of previous experience. So that's how Iqac could become a better learner than Arjun. But at the end of the whole story of Mahabharata, Arjun was the hero, not Iqac. Though Iqac was a good learner, he could learn better archery, than Arjun, but Arjun at the end of the whole story was the hero. Probably the advantage of Arjun was to connect all knowledge that he had, all the skills. It is not about only the skills of arrow and bow. It was the skills, it was the knowledge, it was the information about the socio-political situation he had. So how to connect knowledge is more important. Only learning will give you knowledge, but how to connect that knowledge, how to collect that information, how to synthesize that knowledge to create new knowledge is more important than simply learning different skills. So we have to also give facility to the learners. So that's why, you know, his guru, Dronacharya, in fact, acted as a connector. He could connect the knowledge of Arjun to different fields. So as a teacher, we have to give him opportunity to connect real life experience to the content that we offer, that we give as a self-learning material or in textbook. That connectivism is more important. Promote self-learning, self-regulating learning, build collaborative skills among them, create opportunities for learners to teach and to facilitate discussion, case studies. Use simulations. Dr. Binu was also telling in the other session. Use external communities, people, resource person. It is not only, you know, who are actually got appointment in a college or university and they will be teaching. We can always invite people outside of the university or the college who are successful in their own areas, you know, so that the learners get a fresh and kind of, you know, practical knowledge from those people. Help your learners manage information, encourage substantive feedback from learners. Motivation is one part, and we have to give some role to the students in the digital classroom, and these roles can be rotated during the whole period of the course. Make learners facilitator, they can facilitate each other. Make learners process observer. Make learners summarizers, they can summarize the whole event and, you know, speak in the next class. Consider online office hours. It cannot be 24 hours. There should be a specific time for whole interaction. Make advantage of opportunities for continuous learning. Well, I'm coming to the end. Know that someday you will struggle with technology. It is always there. It is not that always this technology will work. There will be some point of time where technology may fail. But we have to go digitally, particularly in an environment like COVID-19, and we have to enjoy it. At IGNOU, we have a number of different programs available. I request many of you must be going to IGNOU website. Please look into our website, number of different programs. There are online programs also. See, it is only for the last 6 months, so we cannot come to a conclusion like that. The first thing. Second thing, the academic session is going to start. Admission is going to start. So bankrupting is, I think, question doesn't come into. Okay. The second thing, we are always habituated to face mode of education. That is why we always think that that is the only quality education. But we have not been experienced with the online education. We have not experienced, we have not seen the quality of digital education, digital mode of education. So we cannot say that this is a low quality education. Unless we do that, unless we see the result, how can we say that this will be of low quality? So I don't think so.
Yes, thank you very much. These are the views of public which was expressed, but you have put it very positively that we are not so gloomy or dark as some would feel. And thank you for explaining that to us. There is one question from Manipur. A person called David Kame. He has asked, in a remote area where electricity and internet networks are serious issues, as teachers, how do we reach out to students during this time of pandemic? I think that we are very practical problem which all of us are facing. How do we reach out to those students who do not have access to internet and to mobiles and all?
See, sir, this question has been discussed in many forums. Now, one of the answers, one of the solution is that, see, out of 100 students, 10 students will be there, like where they do not have the connectivity, they do not have the computer or mobile. Now, how the college or the university will go? One of the solution is that let the 10% of students who are having such problems be called to the campus. Let them come to the campus. Let them stay in the hostel. And they will be the learners where face-to-face mood teaching will be there. And the same teaching will be on YouTube or will be on digital platform for the 90% of learners who are having the facilities. I think that will be one of the realistic solution to this problem. This problem is not only typical to Northeast. This is a problem all over the country. There are many places in the country where connectivity is a problem, where a flood is there, where electricity is not there. So this problem is all over the country. So I think there will be a time when some of the learners will be called back to the university or the college, and teacher will teach them, and same thing will be broadcasted or uploaded in real time to other learners who are having all the facilities and appear in the class from their own home. I think that will be one of the solutions. There may be other solutions. I have no idea right now, but that will be one of the solutions that we can think about.
Yes, you are very true. These are very, very current existential problems which we have to live up to and we have to face, and this will be always a raging question. Thank you very much.
For 1 minute, just a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
In fact, one of the IITs is taking that particular step. They are calling some of the learners. Okay. Those who can come, please come to the new campus. Those who cannot come, be at home and attend the classes from your home. And some learners will be in the classroom. So some of the IITs, they are doing that. And some of the universities are also going to do that particular process. Yes, sir, please.
Thank you very much. There are again a number of questions, but due to lack of time, we are already reaching 1:10, and we are about to go for the valedictory function. For BM Thomas, thank you very much for salvaging our situation. Would you like to say anything more, Father Thomas?
Maybe just a couple of comments very briefly. I would say our academic institutions will change radically in years to come. There is no choice. I would talk in terms of a tectonic change in education and caused probably by COVID. Things are not going to be the same anymore. Maybe, Dr. Anil, you will be in much more demand now with online education than ever before. Online education has been around for 20 years, but we didn't really value it. It was always kind of suspect, but now it is going to become the new normal. The only question is what you raised very importantly is how do you make this concept practical? How do you apply this knowledge? And how do you promote critical thinking, higher order skills, the complex higher order skills? Mere knowledge is no more worthwhile, as we know. It's available at the mobile, and almost everyone has now practically a smartphone. So it's going to be a huge challenge. But I would come back to you again. You very beautifully quoted Eklavya and Arjun. To me, that is the answer. There has been an experiment which I just like to request all of you, all those who are on this participating, please read about hole in the wall experiment. I repeat, hole in the wall experiment by Sugata Mitra, a professor of educational technology of England. And the experiment was done in India, in Delhi and some other places. Amazing experiment. Exactly, I would say a replication or a modern improvement of Eclavier. He was given a computer. They put a computer in a hole of a wall in a slum area of Kalkaji in Delhi. And they were amazed to see the children learning by themselves, all by themselves. They were able to organize their own learning, self-organized learning. So that's not underestimate our students, that they have to be taught. Give them just the clues. And I have seen amazing things happening now abroad. We are thinking that we have to be still like teachers transmitting knowledge. I think that age is gone. We have to think of something different. Give them opportunities. All children can learn. All children can learn and succeed. All that they need is an opportunity and guidance. I've got one or two concerns, and I would stop with that. One is there are children of, as you already mentioned, needs of diverse learners. When people are into online teaching, they must realize that this aspect of children or others, students at colleges with diverse learning capabilities. Do we take care of them, and do we use tools, those kind of tools and teaching models? Maybe high time for us in India. China has gone far ahead of us. Israel has gone ahead of us in using artificial intelligence. We need to use AI tools, deep machine learning tools into our education, particularly in the colleges. And the final comment I want to make is the most important, I feel, and maybe individuals like Dr. Anil, you would be the ones who have to promote this. Teaching faculty will have to be retrained and oriented for online teaching learning process. This is not video recorded classes. It is something very, very different, and therefore whoever, I think the institutions at IGNU or UGC and others will have to engage digital learning specialists. Engage them and teach our teachers, or else they will do recording and transmit, which is of no use. We'll have to use new tools and promote that capability within our teachers so they can use technology and use technology as an intermediary for the new learning. Congratulations to, first of all, thank you, Dr. Anil, for the wonderful presentation. Congratulations to the Don Bosco College at Golaghat and Kuttikanam. Father Roy is remaining, let's say, invisible, but I hope he's not like the coronavirus, invisible. I'm sure he's there, very alive and very active. Thank you so much, Father Roy. Wonderful that we like to appreciate. I hope this connection will continue. As we say, Mark Twain once said, there are no strangers in this world, but only friends we have not met. And we are meeting so many on this webinar. I hope you maintain the connection. Thanks to you, Father Bimal, and congratulations to the college. Father Paleli, who is invisible like the virus, it appears, but I'm sure he is also there. Both of them must be communicating with each other. So thank you very much. Congratulations, and best wishes to all of you. I hope you continue these efforts during this time of very difficult times in education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Father. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Thomas, and thank you, Dr. Anil, for sharing with us your vast knowledge. Really, you have been very generous and kind, and you have informed all of us. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Dr. Anil. Now we shall proceed to the valedictory function, and I hand over the session to Sister Dr. Sheila Paul, the IQAC coordinator of Don Bosco College, Golaghat, to conduct the valedictory session and to conclude this webinar. Sister Sheila Paul.
Thank you, Father. Reverend Father Bimal Lakra. I deem it a great honor to propose a word of thanks and appreciation to all who have associated us, making this two-day webinar a resounding success. At the outset, I would like to thank our distinguished and honorable speakers, Dr. Utpal Das, Chairperson, Center for Library and Information Studies, Dibrugarh University, Assam. Professor Harry Cletus, retired Principal of St. Albert's College, Kerala. Dr. Binu Thomas, IQSC Coordinator, Marian Autonomous College, Kerala. And Dr. Anil Borah, Regional Director, Iqac, Golaghat Regional Center, Assam. Thank you for your brilliant explanations, presentations, interactions, clarifications, and sharing your precious academic knowledge with us. I am extremely delighted to express our profound gratitude to our Honorable Principal, Reverend Dr. Jose Paleli, Don Bosco College, Golaghat, Assam, for his efficient guidance and encouragement for the success of two-day webinar. He is a tireless, fearless, flawless personality to take us into the pinnacle of academic excellence. Thank you, Father. I would like to express our gratitude to Reverend Father Bimal Lakra, Vice Principal and PRO, Don Bosco College. He is an efficient leader with vision and mission to enhance the quality and quantity of the institute. Also, I thank you for being impressive moderator of today's webinar. I am grateful to Reverend Father V.M. Thomas, SDB, and Reverend Father Roy Abraham, the Principal of Maran College, for interacting and encouraging all of us with your words of wisdom. Thank you. As no program can become successful with a single person, I extend and express a word of thanks and appreciation to IQSC team, HODs, and professors of Don Bosco College, Assam, Northeast. It gives me immense pride saying everyone, how great you are as a team. Awesome. Thank you, my dear colleagues. I do thank all esteemed participants, academic staff, principals, professors, research scholars, students community, and all other persons for your perfect involvement. Your presence, participation, and queries showed your enthusiastic interest in learning. You made this webinar a successful academic event. Thank you. Two-day webinar on research and education during and after COVID-19 came to an end. Thank you, one and all. There's a good news for you. We have an upcoming program on 17th July 2020. My dear friends, if you want to communicate us regarding this two-day webinar, you can mail to us or contact us. We will give you the response immediately. Kindly fill up the feedback form for your certificates. You will receive your certificates within a week. I conclude by saying, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a pleasant weekend. God bless you. The two-day webinar on research and education during and after COVID-19 is officially closed. Thank you.